Hello and welcome to the Total Soccer Show. My name is Daryl Grove and I'm joined by the man who's in charge of the ball kids at AT&T Stadium. His name is Taylor Rockwell. Hello.
Hello. Don't put that on me. Bruce Arena's going to come and find me and yell at me like he did everybody else who he thought was in charge of the ball kids.
So yeah, if you didn't catch this, midway through maybe, USA's 2-0 win over Costa Rica.
No, 8th minute. 8th minute, my friend. Yes.
Bruce Arena is yelling, who's in charge of the ball kids?
Yeah.
They need to be faster. You've got 8-year-olds working. This is not good enough.
Yeah. You can't have little kids back there. You can't have little kids. 8-year-olds? You can't have 8-year-olds. Yeah. He was not pleased.
Oh, Bruce.
Yeah.
But I'm assuming he was pleased at the end of this game, as we were, and as it seems most US fans are. At least we use Twitter as our barometer, right, of how people feel about this game.
Yeah. I think so. With the added curve in there that it's always going to be a little bit more negative, and tonight it was positive to neutral.
Yes.
So yes, I'd say it was a better result overall, at least by social media standards.
And on our quick take, hot take, we said we got the result and we got the performance we wanted, right? This is a US team playing the way we want to see them play. Goals from Josie Altidore, Clint Dempsey, lots of passing and moving. But here's my big question. Here's where I want to start this long take after we've rewatched the game. Why was the performance so much better than the previous 4 Gold Cup games that we've seen?
Because I think the United States did exactly what they needed to do from the outset. So
and
we talked about this in the preview, that we wanted to see the United States be aggressive early. We didn't want to see them sit back and invite Costa Rica and try to maybe trick Costa Rica into coming out of their shape.
Because they wouldn't have.
Yeah, we want to see the United States go at them. And part of that was we talked about wanting a second striker. We wanted to go more 4-4-2 with this one. We didn't want just Josie Altidore standing up top by himself.
Did you notice when the lineup came out, there's a lot of positivity even surrounding the lineup, right?
Yeah, and I think we weren't so inclined to think that Jordan Morris would start. We thought it would maybe be either like Clint Dempsey. I thought it might be Juan Agudelo. Yeah, just because of what we've seen from him in this tournament so far. But as soon as I saw Jordan Morris, I was like, yeah, that's fine with me. That makes sense.
Right.
And it did. I think it worked really well. And I think a big reason why it worked really well is because the United States was aggressive from the start, as I said. But in terms of that front line, at least, it worked really well because Josie Altidore was on his game this evening.
Right, yeah. So speaking of being aggressive early on, Jordan Morris hits the post, insides the first 60 seconds, maybe even sooner than that. It's a long ball, not an aimless ball, but a long ball down the channel, direct ball from Graham Zusi. Areola flicks it on, gets there between two defenders. Then here's the key for me. You mentioned Altidore. Altidore one-times it into the path of Jordan Morris, who's running beyond him. And then Morris hits the post. To me, that was the sort of that was emblematic of a lot of what the US did. They chose the pass early, executed it quickly, and there was always someone running beyond the guy with the ball.
Yeah? And I would say, you said it wasn't an aimless ball forward. I would go even further with that, and I would say that looked to me like a team that had watched the tape and anticipated an early press from Costa Rica. And that's exactly what happened. As soon as that ball goes to Graham Zusi, Costa Rica really sprang, and they had people aggressively trying to close Zusi down.
Oh, yeah, because someone's really driving at Zusi as he plays that ball,
3 or 4 players, and to me it felt like maybe somebody on the U.S. coaching staff or maybe Bruce Arena had spotted that and said, they commit numbers forward really early. If we bypass that, there's a chance we can get a chance right away.
Right.
And they did. Doesn't go in. It is a Trivela, not surprisingly, from Jordan Morris. But again, it's signs of intent. It is, we're not sitting back. We're going to go at you. And I think Landon Donovan and Stu Holden made this point in the game that when you ring that bell inside the first minute, it's going to rattle that team, and they're going to be like, never mind, we're sitting back, back. And they're just going to be that much more hesitant to go after players.
Absolutely, yeah, I agree with that. Does it also seem like maybe this was evidence of a game that the US is taking very seriously, and Bruce Arena and coaching staff have done their homework and given sort of really specific instructions to players of this is the game plan, this is what we're going to do, and here's the reasons why.
Yeah, and on top of that, I think that they have their field generals or their field commanders who are sort of know that they are responsible for things other than their own performance. And I think you could see that. Michael Bradley did a very good job of sort of talking to that back line, talking to his midfield partner, Kellen Acosta, making sure that people were covering and moving and marking space where they needed to be. We saw Michael Bradley a couple different times telling Kellen Acosta, hey, you got to drop. Hey, you need to be here. Hey, you need to be there. That's what you need. We saw, as I said, Josie Altidore. I think you pointed this one out inside the first couple minutes. calling everybody forward, telling Jordan Morris to step, telling Paul Arriola to come inside. Same thing for Darlington Nagbe.
So, we talked about how, in the preview, we talked about how we didn't want Costa Rica to be able to have the ball in the back and just pass it around, and like they can slow the tempo of the game, as they did against Panama, I believe, in the quarterfinal. We wanted the US to apply some pressure, but we also knew that maybe the US isn't, it's not a Bielsa team in terms of they're not like known for their pressing, right? So to see Josie Altidore, first of all, doing that work, because much as I love Josie Altidore, he is not the guy to sort of apply pressure to a defense that has the ball all the time, right? And then, as you said, directing other people, like being the leader of the press and saying, "Hey, Darlington this way, Jordan that way." It filled me with optimism and joy from the start of the game.
Yeah, and it filled me with optimism and joy because it was Josie Altidore kind of doing the hard work himself. It was him not kind of standing the way we've both played on the team where like the best player and the veteran player is the striker, and so he's never going to be the one who moves that much. He's going to be the one to be like, "Hey, you got to make that run. Hey, you got to do this." And in the quick take hot take, I gave a lot of credit to Jordan Morris for chasing people down, running, expending a lot of effort, covering a lot of miles. Josie Altidore might have covered more upon second viewing, that he was the one who, at least in the first 20 to 25 minutes, he was the one who was consistently waiting for Kendall Waston to get that ball, then kind of cutting off the back pass, then pursuing him down the channel to put him under pressure to force a pass. He didn't give Kendall Waston the time to pick his head up, take a few more touches, find the open man. It was harassing play from Josie Altidore early and often, at least in the first half.
Josie's a harasser.
Yeah.
After being harassed by Henry Romero.
And don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. Jordan Morris did his fair share of work as well. Yeah. But I was just surprised with how often it was Josie Altidore sort of turning, recognizing the situation, and immediately adapting and responding to it.
And so the other thing to think about is it's not just like doing the work in terms of chasing people. It's not just running, right? From all the US players, that the three we just mentioned, especially Nagbe, Altidore, Morris, it was very clever pressure. As in, they didn't just chase after the ball and then that was it. They knew to direct people certain ways.
Yeah, and you could talk about that with Josie, as we talked about with Kendall Waston, the one that we tweeted out as well, where it was basically Kellen Acosta spotting that, this guy's open, I'm going to step to him, and that little bit of
who the player was, but yeah.
It might have been Tejada, I'm not sure either. Right. But basically it was that...
It was definitely Tejada because he's wearing number 17.
It was the quick decision to step, and essentially it covers 10 yards very, very quickly. If he doesn't do that, I think there are passing options available, but because he does it, forces Tejada to turn, tries to play that ball all the way back, and it's intercepted by Josie Altidore. It's the one that leads to Kellen Acosta sliding in and putting it over the bar.
Right.
But upon second viewing, Josie Altidore does put it a little bit behind Acosta, so you can maybe let him off the hook for missing that chance. But it also starts with Acosta pressing and stepping, and the U.S. doing the same at the exact same moment. So everybody on the same page there.
I agree with Landon Donovan that Josie should have aimed at the goalkeeper's face.
Well, I think the funniest thing was Landon Donovan saying what he said, which is basically
should have done what I did against Slovenia.
That's basically it, right? He was like, in that moment, like, especially as early as it is, you got to take the chance. You hit that ball as hard as you can. I think he said you hit it as hard as you can across the goal or at the keeper's face. And it was like you could just hear, like, oh, okay, so this is exactly what you did against Slovenia in the World Cup. Like, you could probably sync that up, and it sounds like director's commentary.
Right, so you started talking about Acosta, and you noticed that, in this moment, that chance that he gets, even though most people will remember he kicked it over the bar, he is the one that starts this whole move by recognising an opportunity to go and apply pressure to Tejada, leads to the turnover. We said in the quick take, hot take that we were impressed with Acosta, but with central midfielders, it's really hard to judge on first viewing, right? Yeah. So we went back, rewatched, paid a lot of attention to Kellen Acosta and Michael Bradley. Yeah. What is our verdict now that we've rewatched?
I think I'm as in love with Michael Bradley as I've ever been. I think I really like Kellen Acosta, but I think there were moments in this game where you could see why he's not quite a guaranteed starter yet, why he's not quite at that level.
All right, so building on what you just said, I wrote down a quote from you. Where's it gone?
Oh, Michael Bradley is the dad?
That's exactly what you said. Yeah, look, Michael Bradley is the dad of this team.
That was more in response to, I think it was a sequence in the second half when Costa Rica come through, the ball spills to Omar Gonzalez, and he kind of takes a touch and turns, surveys the field, and then is like, no, you take it, and like passes it to Michael Bradley. Bradley like calmly takes a touch across his body away from the defender applying pressure, and then has like a clean outlet pass to Darlington Nagbe, and the USA's away.
All right, that is when you said it. But I think it also applies to the way that he was talking to Kellyn Acosta throughout this game, beckoning him left, right, gesturing, come forward, come and receive the ball, show for the pass, all that kind of stuff. And you did see Acosta running around like crazy, right? Trying to do multiple things, trying to be in the right place all the time. And he was often, sometimes Bruce Arena, because you heard him shouting, Kellyn, but also Bradley asking him to do certain things. And then it's almost like Acosta is the son in this relationship, who's kind of, or a little brother maybe?
I think you're putting your spin on this. Because what I mean more so when I say Bradley is the dad is that Bradley is the one who can sort of like, when the kids get scared, they can give the ball to the dad, and the dad is like, I got this, guys, don't worry. Now, I think it does extend in terms of he is the one who can get the ball, and while he still does have a little bit of pressure on him, can be like, hey, you need to be doing this, but I'm going to continue to do the other thing. He's definitely capable of multitasking. He's the one who can maybe drive the car while telling the kids to calm down in the backseat, basically.
I would say he navigates as well.
Yeah, that's probably true.
He kind of navigated Acosta through this game. So I want to think about that partnership in terms of Bradley doesn't cover the ground that he used to cover, right? I remember like youngish Bradley, like 24-year-old Bradley, would be sort of all over the place everywhere at once. Acosta did cover a lot of ground, and a lot of times successfully, a lot of times showing for the ball, but then sometimes not quite right, and that's why he needed Bradley to talk to him at the same time. So you see the rough edges on Acosta.
Yeah, I mean, I agree mostly with that, but I think another part of it was, I think you saw here how much pressure is being put on Acosta and how much Bruce Arena, it seems like, is relying on Acosta in these types of games.
Yeah.
Where, like, yes, there were times when he would show for the ball at the exact right moment, but there were also times when you would see him sort of have that 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, oh, right, I'm supposed to show, and then he would go. And I think it's because he has so much going on that he's been told, in this sequence, you need to go here. If this is happening, you need to be there. You need to drop here if this is going on. That I think he's trying to process all that very quickly, and that does slow down his reaction time a little bit, whereas other players who've been there, who know what they're doing, who have that veteran experience, kind of know to do it instinctively.
I think that's what I mean by rough edges. He's still having to remember to do it and to think about it. But he's, 21, I think, Kellyn Acosta? You know what I mean? There's still a long time for him to sort of learn this stuff so instinctively that he'll just do it all the time. And then you'll see him really bossing games, I think.
Because there were moments where he would do it. I think the 24th minute was the one that stood out to me, is he drops in as soon as, I believe, Bradley gets the ball. And Acosta doesn't get the ball. He doesn't really open himself up that much to get the ball from Bradley. But what he does do is take a defender with him, which opens up space. Darlington Nagbe comes inside from the wing. He gets that ball and turns. And because of that run from Acosta and vacating space, it creates even more space for Nagbe to then turn and go at the defense.
So, and actually, I'll tie this all in a bow, put a bow on this. It's not just, we're not just passing judgment on Acosta here. One of the things I'm really excited about with this team is that move you talk about in the 24th minute. It's all about the partnerships and the interplay and the movement of those players. The fact that Acosta can move and Nagbe can go into the space vacated and then Bradley can play the pass to him. That's the first time I've seen the US team in this tournament look like a team that's capable of creating space, especially against an opposition that's playing 5-4-1. Creating space through movement is the absolute paramount thing to do.
Right. And to continue to put the bow, maybe to finish tying the bow, I'll say
put sprinkles on the bow?
Yeah, this was no. I don't think you do. There we go. It's like I don't know what you're doing over there, Daryl. But I think this was
do a lot of bow tying.
So I've seen. But this maybe is a good example for people, myself included, of that gap between being a professional soccer player and being a world-class or just kind of national team caliber player. That, yes, Kellyn Acosta gets a lot of these same instructions when he's playing at club level for Dallas, and he is familiar with Dallas, so maybe that should have helped him be comfortable in the evening. But gets the same instructions, but it's over a season or over 2 seasons or 3 seasons, and slowly learns that role. And so maybe it takes a month before he's figured out, oh, okay, I'm supposed to drop here. And then it's another month before he figures this out. For the U.S. national team, it's the equivalent of a quarterback. I think I said this to you off air. It's like a quarterback having an entire preseason, and like the rookie season, he sits on the bench, he learns what the veteran quarterback does, and then at the end of the year, then there's another preseason, then he's ready to go and start. Whereas with the national team, it's almost as though Kellyn Acosta has been given the playbook and told, like, memorize this, you're starting in a week. And it's just sort of like he's got to get it all in there really quickly. And it shows you how big that jump is, that he is doing okay with it, but certainly isn't mastering it yet.
And he's already played in the Dallas Cowboys Stadium.
Yeah, there you go.
We've really thrown him in there.
Yeah, right? Already a better quarterback than Tony Romo.
So we talk about, I think...
Says the Washington fan.
The US midfield, the Washington football team.
Yep.
The US midfield...
That's why I left it
there. We kind of like how it all worked together, especially that sequence we just mentioned, right?
Yep.
The one, I think, area of... we talked about Altidore and Morris, how we like them working together as well. We'll talk about Dempsey and Altidore when he comes on, that worked together.
I know where you're going with this.
There was an area of the field that we were concerned about for a lot of the game. I think the commentary team picked it up as well. And it was what was happening down the US's right side and how Paul Arriola, for all that early promise where he's up high and he wins that header, and the few times he would burst forward and like beat people with pace, there were a lot of times where Paul Arriola would be pinned back almost on top of Graham Zusi or behind Graham Zusi, and it looked like Costa Rica had done something to prevent Arriola getting forward.
Yeah, and what it was is keep enough people around to prey upon the United States' lack of communication and coordination on that right-hand side.
Those are the two C words that were absolutely missing down that right-hand side. Can you kind of like lay out the problem that we saw?
Sure.
And we saw multiple examples of this, so I'm very confident this was happening.
Yeah, I think a big problem was that Calvo, the left wing back for Costa Rica, was consistently getting forward down that left flank. It seemed like an intentional thing that Costa Rica was doing was they delay a little bit, then he'd push forward. That isn't such a big problem because obviously you've got a right back and a right-sided midfielder who can handle that. The issue I think that kept happening was Graham Zusi was tracking other players. So he was tracking, was it Ramirez?
Ramirez was number 7, who is kind of the left winger, but also was mostly seemed to drift inside and help out.
And I think, again, that was intentional, maybe through studying some film or maybe just thinking that's what the right back would do is Zusi would see that run coming through, he would step and then follow that runner. Suddenly he is now very central. So again, it almost looked like a back three at times.
It was, right? Zusi was almost tucked in alongside. Omar Gonzalez was the right centre-back, so Zusi was almost tucked next to him. And then suddenly Paul Arriola thought he'd be a right winger and attacking, ends up being a right wing back and tracking back and defending way more than he expected, I think. Well, the look on his face when he came off said everything.
But I think the problem is that, like, it's not even that, like, more than he expected. It's that more than he, I guess, I don't know even know what the phrase would be, like, maybe more than he would have liked, which is, it's just to say that, like, I think there are times when that right winger is going to say, like, yeah, I know I got to get back. I know I got to help out a little bit. But that it sort of became like, okay, I'm getting back. That every single time you would see Darlington Nagbe on his left side a good 20 yards farther up the field than Paul Arriola because every time he had to come back and track that wingback all the way down the field. Now, that's not necessarily Graham Zusi's fault, I would say. He's kind of doing what you expect. He's got the runner coming through. He's picking him up. The frustration I have, and again, I'm sorry, because we talked about this as soon as we finished the hot take, that like maybe we're starting to be too critical of Omar Gonzalez, but I'm going to continue to do it here because then on a number of sequences, Gonzalez would pick up Ramirez or Gonzalez would stand there with nobody to mark. And it wasn't like he was then patrolling and telling everybody what to do. He was just kind of standing there.
Yeah.
And then there were other times when he would pick up Ramirez, and now Zusi would be standing there, but Arriola still has to drop back.
Yep.
And every time you'd have two guys marking one guy, occasionally you'd have two guys marking space, while Arriola had to come all the way back to mark that wing back.
I would agree with you. I think Zusi shares equal blame, though. I think like either he needs to make a better decision.
I think he doesn't know. I think he's not a right back.
Oh, so you think like it's Omar Gonzalez's job to sort of tell him this is how you should be doing it?
I think the revelation I've had this evening, which we haven't necessarily talked about, it's that a week I came out of that on the quick take, hot take thinking like maybe Zusi can do it. Maybe he is a right back. Like I don't remember too many opportunities where he messed up. And on watching it again, he had a couple where he did get beat because he was kind of standing there.
Positionally especially?
Yeah. But I think a lot of times it was because he had two people helping him mark two players.
So Paul Arriola was doing his job on one side and Omar Gonzalez was doing his job on the other side. So it's almost like Zusi was overprotected.
Yeah, I think so. And he would try to help out, and he made some good plays, don't get me wrong, and obviously contributed going forward. But it still is a problem that Arriola had to come all the way back, and a better team exploits that and sends more numbers that way and gives you that overload, and suddenly instead of it being 3v2 from a U.S. standpoint, it's 4v3, and then you've got a problem.
Here's where I want to give Bruce Arena credit.
Sure.
Maybe it took too long, but I think he fixed this, either deliberately or accidentally, he fixed this with the Dempsey sub. Because Dempsey comes in for Paul Arriola. Dempsey does not play right wing. That would be silly at this point in his career, right? Dempsey plays central, like underneath Altidore, and then he sends Jordan Morris, who'd been centre forward, out to the right wing. And Jordan Morris, I think, was just less inclined to do that defensive running. And he did do it a little bit, but didn't track back quite as much as Areola did. And it kind of forced Zusi to do his job.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, I'm not sure how intentional that was.
Yeah.
If that was sort of like, look, you don't go back, they're just going to have to deal with it. Because I did see Jordan Morris still dropping back. Probably more than he would have liked.
Yeah.
But at least
he wants to play centre forward.
Yeah, but at least he was more in line with Darlington Nagbe as opposed to being 20 yards behind
That's
him.
how we were tracking this, right? Looking across the field to see if they were sort of, lateral to each other.
Yeah, I think so. But I guess I'm just still frustrated because that's, I guess, an acceptable solution, but that happens in the 66th minute, I think?
When
I forget
Dempsey
when.
comes on, right about there.
Yeah, when Dempsey comes on. And it's not even that much of this is how we're going to deal with it, because you can bring on a player who's going to stay further forward and then it's going to make everybody react to that. Or you can make everybody react to that. You can say, look, at halftime, Omar, you've got to tell him you need to stay with him, or I've got him, you need to push wide.
Yeah.
And it just it makes me wonder, again, this is complete speculation, if Omar Gonzalez doesn't have confidence on that national team level or something, because just a number of different times in this game we would see him see problems. He would spot a vulnerability.
He's never sort of switched off. Right?
No.
He's never caught by surprise. Right?
No.
And maybe we should get into this Omar Gonzalez thing now,
Sure.
right? It's definitely a pros and cons type thing, right? Because there are some defenders who are great physically, or they're fast, or you rely on them in that sense, but they can suddenly be a little bit dozy and they lose someone.
Yeah.
Omar's never that guy.
No, which is maybe why Bruce Arena likes him so much.
Yeah.
And the one that stood out, I think, was in the 71st minute, right before the goal for the United States. Yeah. It looks like we talked about this in the hot take as
this is one we got wrong. We thought it was Omar's fault and it wasn't.
It wasn't, and we thought it was it could have been a goal, it could have been the U.S. down, it was Omar's fault. He gets beat, he's ball watching, and really what happens is it's a really, really good flick. I forget who plays it.
Guzman, I think.
I think it's Guzman who's in, and Omar follows him.
No, it's Urania that's
okay.
in. Yeah, because it always is.
Okay, but either way, it's Omar reacts to this flick very, very quickly and recognizes that. It's nobody else could have seen that coming. It's not as though he got pulled out of position and then the ball is played in over top. It's just a really nice one-time ball off of a long ball, and he immediately reacts.
There's no way that Guzman should have been able to play that pass, right? It's a really, really, really good pass, and so you can't fault Omar Gonzalez for Urania getting behind him, but you can credit him with what he does next.
Yeah, I mean, he basically gets back into the right position, covers the ground, shows him away from goal, so that basically, even if it's a really well-hit shot, and this one's an okay shot, but it's not perfect.
Howard has to save, right?
He does, but it's still a weak attempt that goes across Howard, and Howard's able to get down and hold it. So that shows you something.
Omar forces Urania wide, and I think maybe gives him a little hip nudge.
I'm not going to lie, I still think it's Guzman, but that's why I'm not going with you on the Urania. But we can agree to disagree on that one.
It's either Guzman or Urania, and it's the two of them involved for the play.
Yes.
Yeah?
But so that's really good from Omar. It's he reacts to the play. He doesn't really lose the man, even with a really, really good one-touch, no-look pass, basically, over the top. He covers really well. But that's where he is playing reactionary soccer.
Yeah.
That's where he reacts to things. We talked about this in the El Salvador game, that he's good at reacting to and winning those long balls over the top. He's going to win those headers. Sometimes tonight he was a little bit too aggressive and didn't win them. But that's where he's good. But when it comes to organizing and telling people what's going on, he's just not that good.
I think he's just not that guy, right?
And I don't know if that's a better, fair way to put it. It's maybe that he's not good at it. It's just that maybe that's not his game. But it's really frustrating to see, because time and time again, he would look and see, oh, we're both marking the same guy, but then he'd just continue to mark that guy, knowing that Zusi was standing next to him while Calvo ran through on the other side.
So he allows confusion to then happen when he could have taken charge of the situation and fixed it. Because if you're aware, that's half the battle, right? If you're aware of everything that's going on, you've done the hard part, and then the talking is just the second bit you do to fix the things that you've seen.
Yeah, and I don't know if it is just completely not his style to tell people, if it is maybe he just would rather do it himself and he doesn't, again, like I said on the hot take, want to delegate. I really don't know, but I can't get over that so many times, again, there's one where he saw Zusi's man coming through, saw Zusi not see his man coming through, and instead just dropped off and anticipated that run through, which again is good. He's marking the guy who's going to be open, but by the same token, he doesn't tell anybody this is happening, and he drops off 5 yards so that even if that ball doesn't go to the guy, another player can run through and he's now onside because everybody else thinks that line is being held.
All right, our quibbles aside, though, we can agree that the US really limited Costa Rica's chances in the end, right? And just after that sort of weak shot that Howard saves, the US go back up the other end and they score. Josie Altidore opens the scoring for the United States in the 72nd minute.
You got it.
I want to talk about this goal.
Let's do it.
I want to start with Darlington Nagbe.
Sure.
He gets bumped a couple of times in midfield. It's not the graceful skating I think we talked about Darlington Nagbe going through midfield that we've sort of come to love. It's more of a rough and tumble, manages to hold onto the ball kind of thing, which is equally exciting.
I think you're being a little too generous to him there because you love him so much. Because I think he's slow on the ball. I think that he thinks he has time and he doesn't, and he gets knocked. And he then is able to recover the ball. And I think your point was, even when he's not great, he keeps possession.
Oh, is this what we said? Okay.
Yeah, but I think he's still he's a little bit slow there.
Okay, I remember this conversation.
But then he holds on to the ball, and that's the key part. But
there's other people may have, if they got slow, got caught, they lose the ball. Yeah. Nagbe still comes out of that with the ball.
He does.
Yeah.
And that's important because he then plays the ball to Clint Dempsey, who does Clint Dempsey things.
He kind of does the rest.
He does he does the Cruyff turn to evade Guzman. Then with that's one touch. His second touch, he takes away from Tejada and gets past Tejada, which is a problem for Costa Rica because now in 2 touches, Clint Dempsey has evaded 2 players that are supposed to keep him contained.
Yep.
The larger problem then is that Kellyn Acosta has gotten himself into a good amount of space so that you then have Giancarlo Gonzalez step and think, ha-ha, now you have nothing because I've taken away your passing option, except what I've done is open up a passing lane.
Yeah, because as he steps, he opens up a little bit more space where Dempsey can slip the ball through to Josie Altidore. Before we talk about Altidore's finish, can we talk about what Altidore does before that pass comes through?
Sure, he does.
Because I haven't seen this from Altidore before. Maybe I just haven't noticed. Yeah. But I'm really excited by it.
It's a sequence that if Luis Suarez did it, I think we would both be pumped.
Because it was a Luis Suarez move, right?
Yeah, it's basically he stays offside. He keeps standing offside, and he has the confidence. Maybe it's just the kind of relationship with Clint Dempsey and the faith in Clint Dempsey to know that he will not play that ball until it's the right moment. And when he plays that ball, it is the exact right moment. Josie Altidore times his run perfectly and waits, and Costa Rica's backline drops just enough that it puts him onside, and that's exactly when he starts screaming for the ball. That's about a half second later is when Clint Dempsey plays it.
Because, Josie sort of just steps the right side of it. Is it Salvatierre, then number 6, the right wing back? And then he really does gesture in front of him, here's where I want the ball, and Dempsey plays it the perfect time.
Yeah,
perfect time.
And again, I think it is because Giancarlo Gonzalez has stepped that then the rest of the Costa Rica backline drop back a little bit almost instinctively because it's okay, we need to cushion a bit more. And because they back off, they, without realizing it, immediately put Josie Altidore onside.
And it's just all the little parts working together, including, again, as you mentioned, Kellyn Acosta just making himself available. This is going to all go unnoticed, right? But he then manages to open up that space that Altidore can exploit. And then Altidore, I don't know how much he looks and tries to read what Costa Rica are doing and what the goalkeeper is doing, but it doesn't really matter because he still puts it in the back of the net. Yeah, he does. Well, he just lifts it just over Pemberton, right? Pemberton, I think, gets the smallest of touches. Yep, but not enough. It's like underneath. It's like the underside of his hand. So he's never going to get enough on it to block it out. Okay, and then less than 10 minutes later, Clint Dempsey has the ball in the back of the net, equals Landon Donovan's all-time U.S. national team goal-scoring record. We'll talk about this briefly. Again, Kellyn Acosta involved in the build-up to this, right? Doesn't he start the move by making himself available and then wins the free kick by being taken down? Yes, and the other key part there when he's taken down is that he's again moved into space. And so we had talked about earlier that maybe he was a little bit slow to react, a little bit slow to try to find that space. In this sequence, it's a free kick. I forget who draws the free kick in the beginning. I think it's Josie Altidore. But it's on the left wing. Altidore was fouled. Yeah, I remember that. And Acosta kind of drifts away and then turns and recognizes that he's standing between the 2 midfielders but ahead of the 2 center backs. So he's in a good maybe 15 yards of space in any direction, gets that ball, plays it wide, moves into space again, recognizes that no one's tracking him. So then he has the confidence to stay exactly where he needs to be so that he doesn't take anybody with him or occupy anybody else's space, gets that ball and gets fouled because he's done a good job of hanging in space. And this is the thing where if Kellyn Acosta did this all the time, and this is maybe 2-3 years, Kellyn Acosta does this all the time. Suddenly he is all kinds of trouble for the opposition because he's a defensive threat. Like he'll come and close you down, and he's fast and he'll cover ground and he's aggressive and he knows how to win the ball. And then when you've got the ball, he's finding space and making space and receiving the ball with good soft feet and clever passes. So if he do you sharpen your edges? Yeah, I guess you sharpen your edges. Then suddenly you're an all-round threat.
I think if it becomes second nature, if he doesn't have to have that half-second thought, if it just becomes like, got to do this, got to do this, got to do this, then that's where we're going to see him really raise his game to that next level.
Speaking of next level, the Clint Dempsey free kick.
Yep.
Is it next level, or is it just a horrible, horrible wall from Costa Rica?
I think it can be two things. It's a good. I mean, it's a great finish. It's Clint Dempsey. This is what makes Clint Dempsey Clint Dempsey. I think he recognizes that the way the wall looks, it looks like it's this impossible free kick. In reality, I think it's because they're so tall and the angle the camera is, it looks like they've got everything covered. But really, when you draw the straight line, essentially, if he hits a ball with a little bit of bend on it, it's going into the near post.
Yeah, you did this for me in the studio, actually, because we paused it as he steps up.
Yeah.
So just if you need help visualizing this, it's kind of Dempsey is to the right of goal from his perspective, and Costa Rica, Pemberton has put, 3 or 4 Costa Rican players?
I would guess 4, and then Josie Altidore standing there too.
Covering that near post, right? And so the theory is then, this wall is in the way, you can't shoot at this near post, right? So I will cover the other post. But Dempsey seems to think, actually, I can get around this wall. And then I think what you did for me is you got, is it a ruler or is it just a...
We just have a piece of wood. Yeah.
A piece of wood in the office for some reason.
That's what we used to hold the window open.
Oh, sorry, okay, yeah. And if you ignore their heads, which are not covering where Dempsey's shooting, and just their feet, you can almost draw a straight line to goal.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
And to me, that proves that wall was not covering enough of the near post.
No, it certainly wasn't. But it's still covering enough that if you hit it straight on, it's going to get blocked.
Shins, right?
And if you try to get overly elaborate with it, you're probably going to miss or hit that wall. But if you're Clint Dempsey and you spot that I've got enough space to bend on it, just a little bit of bend is all I'm going to need. And really, if he hits too much bend, if he gets, again, too elaborate, it's going to go right in the middle of the goal and it's going to get saved.
Yeah.
So he hits the exact spot where he needs to hit it. And it's something that we spotted, Stu Holton spotted as well, that as soon as he hits that ball, he knows it's in the goal. Yeah. Like it's not that sort of like, I've hit the ball, but now I'm going to back up a little bit and keep watching and edge away. He just knows. He's gone. Because as soon as you bend it around that wall, goalkeeper's not getting to it. He's going to see it too late. And it's hit low. It's always going to be difficult, even if you do get a hand to keep it out of the goal. More often than not, even if you get a hand to it, you're still going to turn it into the goal.
What if you just end up with your face on the post and your arms wrapped through the net?
Is that what ended up happening? Because I feel like that's probably what ended up happening.
That's what happened to Pemberton.
Oh, Patrick.
Just before Dempsey struck it,
he was doing a full squat.
Yeah, he was squatted all the way down. I don't know why he was doing that, because he couldn't need to look under the wall, right?
Yeah, he's just trying to look fancy. I don't know, but it's also it's going to make it really difficult to react to things because I can see it if
development. I've made a terrible mistake.
Yeah, because I guess I could see it if you're trying to just immediately spring and dive, but if you have to shuffle across, now you're just being a crab. It's just not going to work that well. You have to shuffle over and shuffle back. It's never going to be good, and it certainly wasn't, because it means 2-0 for Costa Rica.
I can't believe that Patrick Pemberton and Keylor Navas are sort of the 1 and 2. I just can't believe the difference in quality between those two keepers that Costa Rica calls on.
The gulf is rather large.
They're very different.
Just slightly, yeah. So do we want to go back? Do we want to revisit the Clint Dempsey as a starter, or do we stand with my take from the first show?
So there may be people who didn't hear the quick take, hot take. Yeah. And the idea here is Clint Dempsey is, advancing in years. There's definitely been a thing where Bruce Arena has said, we don't know if Clint Dempsey is a 90 minutes all the time player, a 60 minutes player, or a 30 minutes player. He started the last game against El Salvador.
He did.
Didn't start this game. Came off the bench, assist and a goal. And I think the argument on the quick take, hot take that we both came to is that when you do that in 30 minutes, you're just kind of proving that that's what you're best at.
Yeah, I think so.
You're making the case for yourself as a sub.
I think at his age and kind of where he is in his career, I think so. I think that's what the case that you're making, that you're a player who's going to come in, has the confidence and ability to really just shred some defenses, but because you don't have to do it over 90 minutes, you can really put 90 minutes into 30 minutes and kind of go all out and really cause some problems.
Okay, and I have a new opinion that I've sort of been thinking about since we did the quick take, hot take. I think I love it. Because one of the problems is, if you do have Dempsey, Altidore as your guaranteed starters all the time, there is a certain lack of energy that goes with those two, right? Not energy in terms of commitment, but just in terms of pace and running and that kind of stuff. Because Dempsey is not fast at this time. So we can now start a game with Altidore and Morris, Altidore and Wood. You know what I'm saying? It's suddenly a much more... It feels more dynamic and aggressive and direct in that way. And then you've got Dempsey... you can be excited during a game of like, all right, if things aren't going well, we can reach in our back pocket and look what we've got.
Yeah.
Look what we've got here. This can change a game.
Well, I think that's the other component that we've talked about, is that I think Bruce Arena is going to build his 23-man roster for that World Cup, assuming the United States qualifies.
Yeah.
As a way, that's going to be real loud.
I was knocking on wood very, very hard to make sure.
That'll do it. That's the thing that was holding him back. I think he's going to build it towards having pieces that he needs in specific moments. And so, again, I don't think Clint Dempsey's going to start, because I think if you look at the pieces that he has, if he's going a little bit more defensive, it's going to be Christian Pulisic as that number 10, with maybe only Josie Altidore ahead of him.
Yeah.
But then you have Bobby Wood if you need that pacey attacker, or you can start Bobby Wood and Josie Altidore, but then you have Jordan Morris who can be that pacey attacker, but then you have Clint Dempsey who can be the kind of technical playmaker, and he can combine with Christian Pulisic, and now you've got two clever playmakers in there if you want to go to like a 3-4-2-1. It just gives you a diversity of options in there, and I think that's why you go with Clint Dempsey, because I think he allows you to change things up in a way that maybe you can't if you start with Clint Dempsey.
But there may be games in the future where the name of the game will be, we know this is going to be slow and it's going to be about picking our way through in limited space, and then you might say, okay, Dempsey is the man to start. Or there may be games like tonight where it seemed clear to me that the plan was keep the tempo high, hence the annoyance with the ball kids, right, for not getting the ball back in play quickly enough, and have lots of pace. So when you look at this US team, there was pace. The pacey players, I could list them, are Villafaña's fast, Nagbe's fast, right? That's your whole left wing. Zuzi is actually very quick. Areola, exceedingly quick. I think I'm coming to realise Areola may be as fast as Jordan Morris. Speaking of then, Jordan Morris in the centre, that's 5 of your 11 are absolute speed merchants. Josie Altidore's not slow. Like, suddenly you can tool up a team to be all about pace.
Yeah.
And then Dempsey's not part of that, right? But there's another version where you don't go with the pacey team, and Dempsey is part of that.
You know, this is why we're never going to have a talk show on like a daytime radio talk show, right?
Why?
Because
we agree?
No, it's because like our answer, like you have to have that, like, is LeBron the greatest of all time?
Oh, yeah.
Yes. No, he's definitely not. Like, that's what it's got to be.
So this week, I'll go Jordan, you go LeBron.
It's like John Mulaney has the idea of like it's like toddlers have hard and fast opinions on things, and our opinion is like, I mean, yes, sometimes Clint Dempsey should start in certain situations, but other times he shouldn't. It's very dependent on the situation. It's not anything that is ever going to get people to tune in and have like strong enough opinions that they hate you and will keep listening, or love you and will keep listening.
Yeah.
It's just sort of like, yeah, okay, that makes sense.
Well, we hope that will encourage people to keep listening to
I think
us
so.
Through the World Cup, keep downloading and subscribing to the Total Soccer Show.
But I did, since you mentioned Jordan Morris, I want to go back to Jordan Morris for just 1 second, because
J-Mo Smooth,
I think
13.
there you go. I think I gave him a lot of credit for like the effort he put in the running, and as I said, maybe Josie deserves a little more credit than I gave him.
Yeah.
But I do want to say that one thing I loved in the first viewing and in the second viewing is Jordan Morris's willingness to turn and go at defenses with the ball.
Yes.
And I think it's a really necessary tool in the Swiss Army knife of the American attack, almost, that you can work it around, you can pass it around, you can work it through the middle, then play it out wide, or at times, with Jordan Morris, given the pace he has, that he can turn and really go at the defense, have them back off a little bit, and a couple different times in this game, he advanced that ball 30, 40 yards down the field before anybody ever challenged him, because he has that pace.
Yep.
The defenders are going to back off and try to
they don't
make
want to
sure
get blown past.
Yeah, but they also want to see if maybe they're giving time for their teammates to get back and be that first wave of defense. But because Morris is so quick, defenses back off. He continues to separate himself from that midfield wave of defenders. Now the defense have backed off to their own 18, and suddenly Jordan Morris is on him. Suddenly the U.S. can push up with them, and now they've got possession. And I think he did that a couple different times in this game.
And again, looking forward, you're going to have Arena can choose between two different looks, right?
Yep.
It's the Morris direct dribbling. And like you said, one of the things I liked, I'm not sure if you just said this or not, but one of the things I liked is that he kind of just does that immediately, as opposed to he doesn't stop and wait and see if the situation is on for that. He's just like, I'm Jordan Morris, I'm doing this.
I'm going.
Right? And then you've got Clint Dempsey doesn't necessarily do that, but he does do a clever turn in pressure and then picks out sort of unexpected passes that the opposition, and I would say viewers, don't see coming. You know what I mean? There's suddenly a pass out of nowhere. Jordan Morris not capable of that. Maybe won't ever be capable of that to the level of Clint Dempsey. But also Clint Dempsey not capable of just receiving the ball and dribbling at pace every time.
Yeah, I'm not sure many American players are or will ever be capable of that the way Clint Dempsey is. Because even
it's underappreciated, isn't it?
Right when he came on, he did quick turn and then a really, really, really clever pass to Kellen Acosta to hit one time. That was so clever that when I first saw it, I thought, like, oh, he didn't mean to pass that. He meant to play it to Josie, and he mishit it. And you watch it again, and it's like he absolutely knows what he's doing. But it's so well done and so smart that if it were some other players, you would think, oh, that was accidental.
Yes, absolutely.
But not Clint Dempsey.
Absolutely. Okay, anything else before we wrap this up? USA 2, Costa Rica, no.
I don't have anything else. I believe you have something else.
What's that then?
Which is that I believe you were pretty pleased by the formation of partnerships.
I was. Just that, Bradley Acosta looks like a partnership that's happening. Viafania-Nagbe looks like a partnership down the left, where Nagbe drifts inside. Viafania sort of overlaps down the left.
Yep. I'd say Altidore Jordan Morris looked like a partnership where
unexpectedly,
where they looked more comfortable than I would have expected them to be, and just really played off each other very well.
Areola Zusi maybe still needs some work.
A little bit.
Like, maybe Areola needs to be more selfish and make Zusi do more of the defending.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gonzalez Biesler, I mean, I know we had some complaints about Gonzalez, but for the most part, we kept Costa Rica at bay pretty comfortably.
Yep.
Yeah? So, lots of little partnerships between players and between defence, midfield and attack. Like, I think what I'm trying to get at is it all kind of worked as a system.
Yep.
And it's the first time that we can say that worked, at least during the Gold Cup.
At least during the Gold Cup, yep.
Okay, we don't know who the Gold Cup final opponent's going to be. Jamaica-Mexico semi-final is Sunday night. We'll be back on Monday evening, with our preview of the Gold Cup final. We are going to research heavily the US opponent and how they've played throughout this tournament, what they do, and what we think the US should do to combat it.
And it'll be interesting to see what the United States does against that Mexico B team.
I'm not taking that for granted just yet. You never know. Juan Carlos Osorio may pass down some like crazy tactical thing.
You'll notice that I did not knock on wood. That's all I have to say to that.
Okay, until Monday. Taylor Rockwell, thank you for taking the time to talk to me today.
Right back at you, buddy.
Listeners, thank you for listening. Please join us again late Monday night for our Gold Cup final preview.